mate, the big one, the one that everyone's broken down and discussed, is the halves. Who a couple of weeks ago, I was convinced it was Nicho Hynes, and then he got spooked against Panthers on the weekend. Turned in the worst game of his career by a long, long way. I'm a little bit worried. They simply had to pick Jerome Luai. He took the Sharks apart. For all the laughs and all the jokes about Cronulla being flat track bullies, they're leading the comp. They got beaten 42-0 and still sit a game atop the comp. He tore him apart. He had to be picked. Nicho Hynes, though, I have my concerns.
I think everyone does. I think everyone got concerns about Hynes. He's had so many good games in 1.5 years since he moved to Cronulla. There's no disputing what he's done for that club. At times, he's put them on their back, carried them all the way. He's a Dally M medal winner. But you do have to look at Cronulla's finals record. And Hynes has not had the greatest of games in some of those finals exits. And then, against Penrith on the weekend, as you said, potentially the worst game he's played since he moved to Cronulla. It doesn't bode well, although I do wonder how much his calf was troubling him through that first half. Obviously, he never came back after the HIA, so that's probably a point as well. Does he even go into this Origin game at 100% fitness? You'd have to assume not, right? Craig Fitzgibbon came out after the game on Saturday and basically said he's on a modified training program at the moment. That won't be changing in the next week and a half, so how does he train ahead of Origin? That is a big question where you're going to have a new halves combination. He's going to be working with a new fullback, new everything essentially. So big question there around Hynes' calf. You're right though, Luai had to be picked. He was sensational on the weekend. He stepped up without Cleary. I don't think you could have thrown Luai into the 7 though. I think Hynes absolutely had to be picked given the injuries. No Cleary, no Moses, no Adam Reynolds even. Who was next? Chad Townsend? There really wasn't a lot. There really wasn't a lot there. So, Hynes had to be picked, but how he performs, yeah.
Look, you're right. I hate to admit I'm Nicho's biggest fan, as you can see. He's behind me in 3 or 4 different forms. I love the bloke, and he's been Cronulla's best. In terms of the form halfback, he's been the form halfback of the competition for 2.5 years. He was 1 game away from winning the Dally M back-to-back last year. I think he was 4 points behind Ponga or something, or 6 points behind, and he missed 6 or 7 games, or 4 or 5, whatever it was. It was a ridiculous stat. He carried Cronulla to 2 straight finals. The one thing I take issue with is everyone said that he's only played badly in finals. Against that Cowboys team a couple of years ago when we hosted a prelim, he was the best player in the park. Unfortunately, the next 6 of them were Cowboys. The next week, he was our best player against South. Unfortunately, he was behind 10 South players in terms of ability on the night because we just got blown off the park. Last year, look, I don't think he stood up against the Roosters. I was very critical of Nicho Hynes. I ate a bit of grief about that. And I took a lot of what I said back out of emotion. But the fact is, you're $1 million halfback. You have to get him over the line against a 12-man Roosters team. Luai being there, I think, led to Hynes being picked because if you didn't go Burton in the 6, you simply had to go Luai, and you have to go Nicho. He's the only genuine halfback left, to be totally honest. You can't throw Moses in. I know Trent Barrett said, look, if he gets picked, he'll do the job. You can't do that in Origin level. Look, the next man up was literally Katoa for the Dolphins. Chad Townsend has won a grand final. His name would have been bandied around as much as I joke about that, and believe me, I wouldn't have watched if Chad got picked. But outside of that, you're looking for a player who's, you're naming 6 at 7. And naming 2 left-sided 6s just wasn't going to happen. So I think he had no choice in to pick Nicho Hynes. Nicho's come out, and I like what he said. He said, last year's behind me. It's not going to affect my preparation. It absolutely affected the Sharks season. He was thrown out there as a sacrificial lamb by Brad Fittler, who I, to this day, hold a grudge against. And it took 3 weeks for him to refine form and play any good football for Cronulla. It killed our season. 100% killed it dead.
Yeah.
My worry is if Nicho doesn't have a good game, he comes back to Cronulla and we do the same thing again. The only difference is he's been picked. He's been given a week and a half to get ready this time in his preferred position. It's all or nothing for Nicho Hynes because if they get beaten, I guarantee you who's made the scapegoat.
Yeah, I think he will be, he or Edwards. I think the fact that Tedesco's been dropped means people are going to be riding Edwards if he doesn't have a good game. And, likewise Hynes, he's in there as a 7. Is it fair? Maybe on Edwards because he has actually been picked over Tedesco. But, Hynes has done a Stephen Bradbury here, seriously. There's no one left.